Repeat after me. So good. So good. So good. You got it. I mean, James Brown, come on. How can you not feel good listening to that? That's enthusiasm, folks. We're going to talk about what it really means in the definition, because you know I like to get to the heart of the word and the definition and the Greek thing and all that stuff, so I like to do that. I'm grateful to be back at GTC LA, one of my homes, my favorite places to be. I really want you to love up the band. They've already stepped down, but the band, come on. And Robbie and Leslie, wherever you are, you're having a blast, and you are living your bliss, I know. So shout out to Robbie and Leslie, and thank you, Eric, for stepping up so beautifully and doing that job. Oh, let's see. Now, I've put my gizmo over here. Okay, my gizmo. So you got to have gizmos now. It was used to be like a paper on a podium. Now it's gizmos. Okay, that's good. I'm good with the gizmo. It took me like 4 years to buy an iPad. You know, I thought I'd graduate ministerial school. I have to have an iPad. And I just never used it. So now here I am. I'm progressing with enthusiasm. So back to that song, River God, just for a second. That song is so beautiful. I want to just touch on the idea that there's just no duality. Last week, James was talking about how we always think about, oh, there's good and bad. You know, there's happy and sad, right? Safe and dangerous. And they're not separate things. They both exist, but they're just the same stick, different ends of the same stick. So it's not duality that we teach here. We teach that there is a unity and a oneness. So when I say so good, S-O, spiritual oneness. Spiritual oneness. So when I'm in spiritual oneness, I'm feeling so good, right? Because I remember who I am. That's when I remember who I am. So let's see, what have we got here? So good. So good. Of course, I was talking to Lori Savage, Dr. Lori Savage. Everyone's a doctor now. I'm working in a hospital here. I feel left behind. I leave and everybody becomes a doctor. What is going on? Lori Savage, who loves to put together the title slide for my talks and for everybody's talk, and she said, you know, I think it needs to involve some kind of chocolate. And I said, yeah. Something covered in chocolate, probably a baby would be great. So she came up with that, which thank you, Lori. So Khalil Gibran, wow. How many people have read The Prophet like 1,000 times, right? Or had it read at your wedding, possibly, you know. For life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one. I'm going to be doing a lot of sort of watery, rivery analogies today, so get into your little rowboats, because that's what we're doing. Yeah, so this is a picture I took when Kevin and I were back in Ireland in June, and this was his family's farm. And I had heard about the sunsets on the west coast of Ireland, and I couldn't believe it with my own eyes. I had to take a picture. So in the song, and when my sunset comes, my prayer will be just one. That Spirit God is going to notice the progress I'm making and the changes that I'm going through. And it's all good. It's all okay. So that's my promotion of my own slide. I got into taking pictures mostly during COVID lockdown stuff. I know everyone's tired of talking about lockdown. But it changed a lot about my life and how I spend my time. So here we go, guys. This is the origin of the word enthusiasm. Okay, so en theos, which is, you know, God within, right? But it used to mean, actually, it meant possessed by a God or in ecstasy. Possessed by a God or gods, right? Depending on if you believe in multiple gods. So that's kind of interesting. And then enthusiasmos, probably what Robbie and Leslie are saying to each other right now in Greek, in Greece, inspiration or possession by a god. Again, it's the possession by a god, right? And usually it was related to referring to religions. Have you ever been to any kind of religion where they do that sort of ecstatic sort of speaking in tongues and this kind of thing, right? And then back in the Christian Bible, there's the Pentecost where Spirit comes down like a flame and then everybody starts, freaking out, being enthused, right? Being possessed by a god. And then the French, middle 16th century French, enthusiasme, divine inspiration. So it became, instead of being possessed by a god, it became divine inspiration. So that's kind of what we relate to it as, right? Kind of a divine inspiration. That's what Craig was saying too, about when we do what we do in our life, the enthusiasm isn't there unless we're having that divine connection where we are in our bliss. We are unlimited. We can win that race. We can land that dive. We can sing that song. We can write that book. How many of you are writing a novel? I just want to say, it's okay, great. Usually 10 hands go up. Everyone started writing a novel. Okay, but that's good. So enthusiasm is not the same as excitement. I just have to say, it's not the same as excitement, and it's not the same as anticipation. Kind of if I'm going to be performing, or, diving, which I would never do in my entire life. If I were going to do that, there's that sort of, I don't know, butterflies, and there's that excitement and that sort of energy where you're just bursting forward like a racehorse, right? The gate opens, here we go, That's still not enthusiasm. That's excitement and anticipation and, healthy amount of nerves, which is good, brings your energy up, but it's not enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is divine inspiration, which is why I went back to that idea of connecting to that one river, that source. So God is a great underground river that no one can dam up and no one can stop. Meister Eckhart, also the one who later on when we sing the thank you song that I wrote, that's Meister Eckhart. If only one prayer was ever said, thank you would be enough, right? Those of you ministerial students, you know this. So, but how many of us can pile up our baggage at the mouth of the dam and dam it up from our own experience? The river's there. God is there. Energy is there. Spirit is there. But we have our stories, our baggage, our issues, our foibles, our stuff that makes us crazy. At least I do. Does anyone else have stuff that makes them crazy? Like leaving the toilet seat up or something like that, which my husband does not do. Thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, come on. No one's ever lived with somebody who left the toilet seat up? Okay. We can say those things here. We can talk about toilet seats at the podium. It's okay. If Dr. James can talk about kissing somebody really passionately and stuff last week, I can talk about a toilet seat. So we pile up our stuff. We block our receiving end. You guys know this stuff already. I'm learning in my senior years to travel light, especially going back and forth to Ireland several times a year, because Kevin's mom and family are there and his mom is, winding down and having some issues. So we're going to be there more often, which is lovely for me. I love it. But learning to travel light. Do I really need to bring this many sweaters? Do I really need to bring? And it's the same spiritually. Spiritually traveling light is a great, great thing to practice. We can't always do it. I was talking to Mindy earlier about kids going off to college and the empty nest, And I mean, that first time that Carly went off to college, I just cried for 3 days. And I wanted her to go, because she'd been locked in her room for like a year, with the lockdown. I wanted her to go, but there's something about that letting go. But that was about me. That was my baggage, my stuff. So in order to undam that river of God, of enthusiasm, I had to look at my own stuff, as we always do, right? That's the way it is around here. It's nobody else's fault. How do we go from feeling stuck in upset to feeling enthusiastic? Well, we could do this. We could place ourselves in the middle of the stream of power and wisdom which flows into you as life. Again, Emerson. Big, big, big influence. Pick up Emerson's essays if you haven't read any of them. Wow, it's just amazing. It'll blow your mind. I always use this metaphor, especially when I'm singing River God. I think about placing myself in the middle of that river of life, that stream that's flowing into me as life. And suddenly I feel like all the circumstances and the junk and the garbage and the details and all that stuff, it just does melt away. It just does melt away when I put my focus on what's so good. So how many of you saw I wrote a little bit of a blog this week? Did you see the blog?
Yes.
Okay, good. A couple of people, so I feel it wasn't a waste of my time anyway, writing a blog. In the blog, I talk about a story about an Irish sailor who had sailed up and down the coast many, many times by himself. No big deal. He goes out sailing one day. It's a long day. It's getting dark. And now it's getting like weirdly dark, right? The stars are gone. The moon is behind some really dark clouds. Navigating is getting tough. The wind is coming up. He's trying to deal with the sails. It's a sailboat. Now, all of a sudden, you've heard of something called a rogue wave? You can get a rogue wave, which is a wave that just like pops out of nowhere. And it's huge, and it can just smash into your ship. It's not so bad if your ship gets hit sideways on the side or even the front, because it tips up at the front. Not so bad. The worst thing that can happen is when the rogue wave hits the back of your ship and smashes it down and just takes you under. So he was hit with this rogue wave, the back of his ship. He was tethered to the ship, thank God, but he was underwater, and he knew he was drowning. And a thought hit him as he was there, tethered to this sinking ship. A thought hit him as he was facing death. You know, my ship is made of wood. And wood actually likes to float. Wood's nature is to float. Wood's nature is to float. That is its true nature. So he said, my boat wants to float. And before you know it, he felt the boat rising out of the water. He gasped for breath. He was safe, and he made it to his destination. So how many things have hit you like a rogue wave? Yeah, wow. My mom just had a heart attack out of nowhere about a month ago. Wow, that just, I was actually leaving to sing at North Hollywood Center for Spiritual Living on a Wednesday night. And I got the call that she was taken to the hospital and was probably having a heart attack. So I knew I couldn't do anything right at that moment. She was being taken. She was going to the hospital. I went to my gig. I went to the center. I sang my solo. Kevin got a call saying she's got fluid in her lungs. She's not doing well. She may not make it. So graciously, they allowed me to go, and I went, and she did make it. She's not ready to go. She's not ready to go. It's not her time. So things can blindside us, right? Things can blindside us. The thing is remembering what our true nature is. So, Ernest Holmes, of course, the founder of the science of mind and spirit, as it used to be called. Enthusiasm reaches out with joy, for there is nothing depressing about it. It reaches out in faith, for there is no fear in it. It reaches out with acceptance, for there is no doubt in it. It reaches out as a child, for there is no uncertainty about it. So, enthusiasm, to me, is really another name for God. Literally, another name for God. Eric. Literally. Did I use it correctly? James is always checking with Eric to see if he's using the literally correctly. Literally another name for God. Think of it that way. That's kind of a different way to think of it, but I think of it as a life energy and a vibrational force. When you're around somebody who is enthused, who is connected to that God source energy, it's contagious. Emma Curtis Hopkins, the greatest teacher of teachers, told us that our good is our God, and our God is our good. Just another name for God is good, right? So that's what I always remember. I always go back to Emma. So I mentioned that I had a couple of hobbies pop up when I was just kind of not working and sort of locked in my house. These are hummingbirds. Does anybody have any hummingbirds in their yard? Yeah. My gosh, aren't they amazing? And like it's a little community. You've got like the bully hummingbird that like comes in and goes, "Get out of my way!" And then he wants the whole thing for himself, and everybody scatters, "Ah!" And then they all go running off, and then it's quite something. So I started watching these guys, and they really are just being themselves, aren't they? It reminded me of that Bible quote about the lilies in the field. You know, they don't worry about being lilies. They're just lilies. I'm paraphrasing the Bible here. But that's the idea. When we are just being our true nature, like a hummingbird is just being a hummingbird. And it just drinks whatever I put out there, which is the stuff with no red dye in it. And so anyway, that's what hummingbirds do. This is a picture I took in Ireland last June, and it's Inniscrone Beach in County Sligo. And just looking out at the beach, feeling the breath of God, if you will, that gets me enthused, because then I feel really connected. I feel connected to that power and that energy, again, of the sea, of the water, of the God that is everything. And these are flowers in County Wicklow. We were in County Wicklow, and it just looks like this. I mean, you can't even believe it. It's just gorgeous. This gets me enthused. So being in nature, Emerson was big about being in nature. Get out in nature. It's so good. It just really connects you to who you are, because we are that. We look different. We don't look like a flower, but we're the same stuff. We're all made out of that star stuff, right? You know that. Get out in nature if you can. If you can't walk around in it, just sit in it. Just be out in it. It's amazing. So, the last picture of Ireland. This is a little bridge in County Carlow, and it leads to a little village near where we've been spending some time. So we're going to go back to that village when we go back in October 6th. We'll be back there. So anyway, whatever your thing is, if it's playing guitar or bass, even if you play it, not as great as John DePatty, who does, but don't give up. Keep doing it. Do it. Or Stan Galperson, songwriter, performer. Do your thing. It's your thing. Do what you want to do. I can't tell you who to sock it to. Literally, do your thing. So tomorrow is Rosh Hashanah. I want to just do a shout out to our Jewish family and friends. I believe Rosh Hashanah starts the new year tonight, right? At sundown. So a lot of people are, taking off work tomorrow to just start the new year. So let's just say Shana Tova to all our Jewish people, and know that the next 10 days they're going to be focusing on, really the meaning of their life, forgiveness, and eventually culminating in atonement, on Yom Kippur. So we can hold that space with them if you're not practicing that faith. Hold that space. Be in a space of looking at yourself. Am I bringing joy to someone else? Am I enthused? Am I possessed by God and just in ecstasy, doing what I love to do? Or am I just kind of walking around like, oh, when will this be over? Like, what am I doing? We get to choose that, and you know that already. So, I would like us to take a moment, as I always do when we're in our heads. When I first came into this philosophy, I thought, this is perfect for me. It's all intellectual. I don't have to feel anything. I can learn all this stuff and then make my life exactly how I want it just by thinking it. I was a little off the mark there, I have to say, because we all know that it is the fire from heaven, as Ernest Holmes said, that actually makes a successful prayer treatment work. It's not just believing it or knowing it. You have to have the feeling behind it. Yes? You with me on this? Yeah. So I like to end my talk with a little moment of going into our hearts and into our vibrational just greatness and getting out of our heads a little bit, because we've learned a lot of factoids, we've heard some quotes, saw some of my hummingbird pictures. So will you join me in just kind of unclenching, unscrunching your face? If your face is scrunched, scrunch it really tight and then let it go. Feet are flat on the floor, connected again to this divine energy that is all there is. And I'm going to do a little bit of a sound bath with the gong. Just like in the River God song, the gong can be raging wild, it can be swollen high, it can be as soft as a lullaby, but it's a flow. So join me in the flow of the gong as we think about what it is that makes us enthused. And then we go out and do it. Okay, take a deep healing breath. Oh, relax those shoulders, just let it all go. We're here to love, we're here to live. I invite you to rub your hands together, palms of your hands together. Create some energy there between your hands. And now, just a few inches apart, hold your hands apart and feel that ball of energy. Like a golden ball of light. Now take that golden ball of light and move your hands with the ball of light to your heart. Cross your hands over your heart, putting that ball of light right in your heart. So good. So good. Thank you all for spending this time with me today. Blessings and namaste. Thank you.